Uh, Thank you all, co-panelists, and thank you, audience, for joining at this late hour after dinner. I would like to begin this presentation by a salutation, Om Namo Narayanaya, Shri Gurubhyo Namaha, and also an Upanishadic mantra, Ishavasya Sarvam. So, what Parikji brought out, do not be greedy, is precisely the thing Dhritarashtra does not listen to. He is greedy. He's taking Yudhishthira's wealth in a crooked gamble game. The topic of my paper, which is taken from a larger work, here you have to focus on only two things. The place of Vidura that causes conflict, because Vidura is the Dharmatma, Dhritarashtra is Adharmatma. And the second is Sabha Madhye, which is the place where conflict is brought to and Bhagavan will appear in the Udyoga Parva. So these are the only 2 points, and the rest you can just follow along. On the eve of the Great War, as debates rage over the inheritance of the throne of Hastinapura, Vidura helplessly stands by his dharma. His helplessness stems from a lack of privilege. He's biologically the son of Vyasa, legally the son of Vichitravirya, and the wise stepbrother of the dead Pandu and the blind Dhritarashtra. He is said to be intelligent, ethical, eloquent, and equipped with every political virtue. Yet, even when his older stepbrothers are disqualified for kingship, he does not stand third in line for patrimony. Vyasa declares that Vidura is Vichitravirya's son, with the ritual niyoga through his virility. Vidura was begotten on, and now I'm citing Mahabharata, Vichitravirya's field. Vaishampayana concurs this and says, yes, Vyasa is Vichitravirya's son. Vyasa calls him the great intellect, a great yogi, a great souled one, indeed a very great souled one. Mahabuddhir Mahayogi, Mahatma Sumahamanaha. Moreover, Vidura was nourished by truth, self-control, tranquility, liberality, and the greatest of virtues, ahimsa or non-violence. Here's the thing. Drona notes that Pandu gave the throne to both Dhritarashtra and Vidura. Gandhari counts Vidura in line of Kuru succession while affirming Yudhishthira's claim as next to Vidura's. Nevertheless, Dhritarashtra ends up on the throne, and the text notes the following. Vidura stood below Dhritarashtra like a humble servant and waited upon him, holding up a tail hair fan. These passages occur in the context of debates about inheritance of the Kuru kingdom in Udyoga Parvan. Before Drona's words and Gandhari's judgment, two others speak up. Bhishma recounts his role in arranging the Niyoga ritual with Vyasa. So Bhishma arranges for the two Niyoga marriages to Ambika and Ambalika through Vyasa, but he goes and finds an illegitimate daughter for Vidura. So look at Bhishma. Bhishma's Savarna choice of bride for Vidura is cruel irony. Forsaken, Vidura remains a Kshatta by profession. By birth, he may be the son of a king and an ex-Shudra woman, but he remains as if a Shudra, an outsider misbegotten in the Vedic ritual of procreation. From the curse of Ani Mandavya Rishi in Adi Parvan to Vidura entering the body of Yudhishthira in the Ashramavasika Parvan, from his helplessness in preventing the dicing game and the humiliation of Draupadi to his immense power in being able to summon Sanat Sujata, Sanat Sujata means the eternal one of excellent pedigree. In his fearlessly giving voice to Draupadi's question about dharma in the assembly hall, and when Bhishma dithers and Yudhishthira remains silent, Vidura is vocal but unable to save the situation. He does his best, though. He has already saved the lives of the Pandavas in the lacquer house, and he has tried to teach dharma to the witless Dhritarashtra. Vidura embodies the painful vicissitudes of dharma. Indeed, God dharma is unique in having two manifestations in the Mahabharata, both as the father and the son. Remember that Yudhishthira's father is dharma, through Kunti's boon, and he's also, Vidura is the incarnation of dharma. When Vidura dies, he enters Yudhishthira, and dharma, which is split aside, becomes united and becomes Dharmaraja, the king of Hastinapura. Okay. Having established the dharma framework, Vidura, Yudhishthira, and the complicated genealogy of the Kurus, let us proceed directly to the second Parvan of the Mahabharata, the Sabha Parvan. Duryodhana, seeing the fortunes of Yudhishthira successfully consecrated with a Rajasuya sacrifice, burns with envy, rage, and contemplates suicide. To bring down Yudhishthira, Shakuni proposes a dicing match. Dhritarashtra is reluctant at first, but agrees to his son's wicked scheme without consulting Vidura. Later, on Vidura's advice, Dhritarashtra wavers, but Duryodhana and Shakuni convince him to proceed with the game. Duryodhana argues, Brihaspati has said that the way of kings differs from the way of the world, and that therefore the king should endeavor always to think of his own profit. This is the Arthashastra debate we heard about this morning. The baron's way, great king, is to be devoted to victory. Let it be dharma or adharma, as long it is his way. So that is Duryodhana's argument. After the second round of discussion, Vidura protests again, but Dhritarashtra remains firm and sends Vidura to invite the Pandavas to the game. When Vidura warns Yudhishthira that the dicing game will bring misfortune, Yudhishthira simply ignores his advice. In response to the warning, he asks who else besides Duryodhana will join the gambling. When the game begins, Shakuni wins by resorting to trickery, nikritim. This phrase is repeated 14 times. Vidura interrupts the dicing game and angrily speaks out against Duryodhana to Dhritarashtra. Even as Duryodhana and Asura had co-opted Brihaspati, the priest of the gods, in justifying adharma, Vidura quotes Kavya, the priest of the Asuras, in supporting dharma. Here comes the famous line from Mahabharata: to save the family, abandon a man; to save the village, abandon a family; to save the country, abandon a village; to save the soul, abandon all earth. He implores Dhritarashtra to abandon the jackal Duryodhana and favor the Pandava tigers. Vidura warns against the war that will result from the dicing game, a war that will be the extinction of all men. Dhritarashtra does not respond, but Duryodhana does. Among the insults he hurls at Vidura, the following are significant for our argument. Duryodhana alleges that Vidura is partial to the Pandavas, despises the sons of Dhritarashtra, that Vidura's argument is colored by partiality rather than by dharma. Nothing is more sinful than fratricide. He accuses Vidura of actually quoting the downfall of Dhritarashtra. Vidura is unlearned, but most importantly, Vidura is an outsider meddling in affairs that do not concern him. Duryodhana's true teacher is one that teaches in the womb. So Duryodhana says, I learned all this in the womb. and that Duryodhana does not recognize any authority besides this inborn teaching. Vidura should leave, and finally, he's as untrustworthy as a cheating woman. Duryodhana's precise words are, "A bad wife, though cajoled, will leave anyway." Vidura pleads for dharma by turning to his half brother Bhishma, saying, "Tell him, king," but to no avail. Vidura understands that all Duryodhana wants around him are flatterers, not someone who relies on dharma. He withdraws, gambling continues, and the refrain of Shakuni cheating and winning continues. Duryodhana's speech, if you look at it closely, deploys several strategies of adharma. Vidura is put in his place repeatedly by specifying his position as a mere Varna role. He is called Kshatta repeatedly. This speech nevertheless addresses the argument Vidura made by quoting the priest of the Asuras. In fact, none of Vidura's points are taken seriously. Rather, in a series of ad hominems, Vidura is othered, his authority rejected, and his voice silenced. Vidura himself is now under suspicion of fratricide no less. Dhritarashtra does not deign to respond to his half brother, nor intervenes as his son abuses his own brother. On the contrary, the blind father repeats the adharmic son's words to Vidura after the Pandavas leave for the forest. When Vidura advises him to make peace with the Pandavas, the blind king repeats, "Now go where you want to, O Vidura, and stay if you must. A bad wife leaves, no matter how cajoled." So those are exact words from Duryodhana that the father is parroting. Yet the feminine critique is not far off. In the humiliation of Draupadi, the reader is confronted with the horror of toxic masculinity on the part of the Kauravas. In contrast, Draupadi is Sati, the steadfast one, not the fickle one who leaves. She saves the Pandavas from slavery, as well as dramatically and poetically justifying the complete annihilation of the Kuru males. The feminine voice of Gandhari's reprimand also critiques the dominant male voices in the Sabha. But most stunning is the genius of the epic in transforming and deploying the emasculating insult to Vidura. As Vidura, feminine form, this term appears again in the Udyoga Parvan on the eve of settling scores with the greedy and cruel Kauravas. This episode refers to Krishna going to Kunti and saying, "Do you have any message for Arjuna?" And she tells the story of someone called Vidura who goes to battle and comes home, and his mother treats him like a girl, saying, "You shirked from battle." So basically, the be a hero Arjuna message is actually Vidura. So this is one of the ways in which the Mahabharata is justifying the feminine voice and connecting the feminine to dharma. Vidura berates her defeated, dejected son as follows: "Where did you come from? Neither I nor your father begot you. Too cowardly for anger, barely hanging onto a low branch, you are the man with the tools of a eunuch." Krishna repeats this message to Arjuna explicitly in the Bhagavad Gita, "Klaibyam mas magama partha." The dharma circuitry of the epic is as strong as it is subtle. So this position of Vidura determines the imbalance of dharma in the court. Now, for the place where conflict appears, this is referred in the epic by a very ordinary term, but it is used very precisely, sabha madhye. The word sabha madhye is significant. It occurs 10 times in the Sabha Parvan. One reference, the first one, It occurs in the context of the fall of Duryodhana in Yudhishthira's Sabha due to his misperception. But all the remaining occurrences commence when Draupadi enters the Sabha with her question on dharma. When the term Sabha Madhye returns in the narrative after Draupadi's episode, Dhritarashtra is filled with dread. Summoning Vidura to his chamber, he confides, Sanjaya has returned, Vidura. After berating me, he left. Tomorrow he will deliver Ajatashatru's message in the assembly hall, Sabha Madhye. Before Krishna goes to Hastinapura on behalf of the Pandavas, Draupadi complains again using the word Sabha Madhye. Every time the word Sabha Madhye comes up, it is related to Draupadi's insult and the gambling match between Dharma and Adharma that took place in the Sabha. Final appearance of Sabha Madhye. Janardana, dark as flax blooms and robed in yellow, glistened in the middle of the hall, Sabha Madhye, like a sapphire set in gold. This is when Krishna appears in the Sabha. So I have made 2 points here. I will conclude now. One point is about conflict arising according to social place in the privilege system. And the second is the actual space, which is the Sabha.